Okay, so for our next movement, we're going to talk about the overhead press. So with our overhead press, we're really trying to focus on our shoulders for this movement. It's going to get some tricep involved and maybe some upper pec, but really we're trying to dominate the movement with our deltoids. So for this movement, what we want to first start with is the setup. Our setup is going to be just the same as our squat patterns, where we have that bar set to about sternum or collarbone height. That's what I like to set it because I can pick it off from the bottom very easily. So right about here, just like my squat pattern, is the best spot. And so I'll tell athletes to do the same. So I'll face out for this so you can see. So right about here, if I went to pick it, which we want to pick with bent knees, right there, I'm set up to pick that bar off. Okay? Next one we want to talk about is our grip. For our grip, I like to keep it nice and tight for an overhead press. That way it's straight up here compared to way out here where it's less of a range of motion compared to this, which is going to go a little more vertical. Both of these grips have different focuses when it comes to a little wider, like our bench grip, a little more narrow, as far as what muscles will be working more primarily, or what intensity they're working at. So if I'm here, I'm still going to get the same muscles working, but I might get a little bit more tricep from this grip compared to out here, which is a little more shoulder. So I'll go about a thumb from the knurling for my grip when coaching it as my uniform position. I could say, outside my shoulders, but really what it ends up being is about thumb from the knurling. And then from there, as I'm picking the bar off the rack, my elbows are straight underneath my wrists, and I stand up with it. So the reason why I like to set the hook to sternum height still is so I can actually pick it off compared to having to go on my tiptoes. We know that if we go on our tiptoes, we're likely to get misses and potentially have an incident where someone can get hurt. Okay? Our set position for an overhead press is going to be a soft knee, just like that start of the RDL position, and our ribs are going to be pulled down to our hips. We don't want to have our ribs come down and our chest come down. Just think about engaging our hips, or our ribs to our hips. Our abdomen is engaged, so we're nice and strong through there. Our slight knee bend, so our torso is nice and vertical, and from there I'll press straight up. So, give you a little demo of that movement. Right there. I'm going to set my hips. I'm going to engage my ribs down to my hips, and from here I'm going to press straight up and back down. I'm going to control the movement, go through a full range of motion. So all the way up overhead, locked out, all the way down to where it touches my collarbones, and back up. What I don't want to see when this is happening is someone uses their legs and then they hyperextend their back. I don't want to see them pressing out in front of them, almost like a shoulder press, like straight in front of them. I definitely don't want to see that. But I want to see them nice and strong here and keeping that bar as close to their center of gravity, going straight up overhead. It's a controlled movement through a full range of motion. We really want to emphasize that slight knee bend and our ribs pulled down because it's going to keep that spine in a neutral alignment compared to getting into extension, especially hyperextension. That can cause some issues with our back and be a little uncomfortable. So we really want to lock in this good positioning here to press overhead with. We want to make this as localized as possible to our shoulders compared to compensation in other parts of our body. So the overhead press really is a setup with our hips like an RDL, and our hands are going to be placed slightly outside our shoulders. We're going to press up with control through a full range of motion and back down with control. I like to think of this exercise as similar as a core exercise as it is an overhead press exercise. Because if you're doing this exercise correctly, it should be really challenging your core. You should be having to try and fight not to break. break to press that up because you're really challenging your core.